Right, welcome to this episode of InfoSec Journeys. Today, I'm really pleased to be joined by a very special guest, Ste Watts, someone I know and love in the industry and have done for many years. And I'm excited to explore your journey, Ste, with us, because I know you've got a rich background in information security, lots of stories to tell. An epic beard has been grown throughout this particular career as well, which definitely we'll explore.
Not
And
grey
I'm
yet, though.
excited.
Not grey
Yes,
yet, thankfully.
I don't know where you got that from. I honestly, you're a guest which I've really looked forward to having on to pick apart your journey. As I say, someone I really respect in the industry, and we'll hopefully open you up and see what makes you tick.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate
why
that.
don't we get cracking? Just give us a bit of an intro, Ste, who you are, what you do, what kind of area of InfoSec you work in.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Cole. As you say, Ste Watts, head of cybersecurity, currently working at Rathbones Investment Management. So Rathbones is a provider of personal investment and wealth management services. I've been in IT for around 20 years. Just over 10 years of that has been in cybersecurity. So I've done quite a few things through those times, worked my way up, and we'll talk a little bit more detail through the webinar on the journey. But covered off quite a lot of things, from joining a service desk all the way up to being, the head of cybersecurity in the role that I'm at now, basically. Along the journey of primarily in the security space, looked after critical national infrastructure. So as we know, we met at Bank of America. So, a lot of work done there, and also I used to work for United Utilities. So critical national infrastructure there as well from that perspective. So and I think I've probably dipped my toe in just about most of the things that's out of there. So I like to think I've got a bit of a good base to kind of talk through.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some fascinating roles in there. Is there anything out of interest? Do you think the critical national infrastructure element was part of the appeal when you took the roles in UU and B of A?
Yeah, absolutely. I think kind of when we dive into how I started, when we're talking about global thermonuclear war, critical national infrastructure, if ever there was an analogy, then I think that definitely, even maybe if it was subconsciously, that definitely appealed to me in those particular roles. They weren't roles that I sought out, and just they were definitely interesting ones when they get placed into those specific roles. Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting. So, I think when anyone thinks of like information security or like coins a term like hackers, it goes back to like that film, the hack, Hackers as a film. As people always think like that's what people are trying to break into, nuclear power plants and banks and X, Y, and Z. So, is that like, were you excited about that part of information security? So that was like birthed you into that path, or was it, what was it that motivated you to get into this role?
Yeah, so exactly that, basically. So I think a lot of people I've spoken to that they're in cybersecurity have not necessarily hit that from day one. They've moved from other roles, other non-cybersecurity roles. They've never really had that kind of path set out from kind of day one in terms of a career. For me, I did have that. So I knew from an early age that I wanted to be in cybersecurity, and that was because I watched the film called War Games with Matthew Broderick. I think it was the 80s. It was at that time. So that kind of spawned my love of cybersecurity. Just fascinated by it. So if you've not watched that film, definitely recommend going out and watching that. And for those that haven't, the general kind of synopsis of it is that there's a teenage hacker who likes testing security back in bulletin board systems days, doing dial-up and things. He dials up into this particular system and starts playing a game. I won't spoil it for you, but ultimately leads to potential global thermonuclear war. So two countries at war because of what he does. And I came away from that film just thinking, wow, you can sit at your computer, in your bedroom or in your office, wherever you are, and affect something on the other side of the world, and to that scale as well. And I think it just kind of, it appealed to the rebellious side of me a little bit, and just the kind of the fact that I love puzzles. I love seeing how far I can go with things. I don't like being told no, or being told you can't do this. I always have to go, right, okay, well, let's see if we can do that, within certain boundaries. And again, we'll discuss that in terms of ethical hacking and things today. But that really piqued my interest at that point, and I was kind of set from that point forward. That's when I went and got my first computer, and everything kind of went from there. I set my goal on getting into cybersecurity. I knew I wouldn't be able to jump straight into that role, so I started to build a path for myself from an early age based on kind of what I knew about it, and went from there really. And that's just kind of.
What's it when you started on that journey then, on that kind of initial, you set your sights? I mean, one thing I do know about you, Steve, is that you're such a goal-focused individual that and obviously behind your head, and you can explain to the audience like what some of those trophies mean and how proud they make you, but also like that to have your sights set on something, having watched war games, been so excited by it and thinking that's what I want to do for a living. What was the industry like when you first looked at it? Was it like what war games was, what the kind of stuff that you were seeing? But did you, or was it actually the real world? Was it completely different and, a bit of an eye-opener?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I guess I've never really actually thought of it in that way, really, because when I first got into it, I didn't really understand what the corporate version of that looked like, because I was still in school. So I missed that part out. I was still in school. I was very young. I think I was 13 when I watched the film. So I had no idea if that translated to reality, if there was a commercial version, a corporate version of something like that I could get my teeth into. I just knew that whatever I wanted to do, it was going to be something like that. And I didn't really necessarily know what that looked like. So the first thing for me was really just to explore it. It became a passion. So before I even necessarily thought about, I'm going to go into this exact role, it was very much about finding tools, finding out what all this hacking thing was about, what cybersecurity was. I don't even know if that term was coined back then, but finding out what it is. I just wanted to get onto computers and see what I could do, basically. So what that looked like I guess in a bit of a journey is that I went away and got my own computer. So at that point, as I say, it was bulletin board systems. So we got a modem, started dialing up and going into various bulletin board systems. And I was able to find ones that were predominantly orientated towards like the underground, if you like, so hacking, phreaking, phone phreaking, those sorts of things. And I think that really just took my interest to a whole nother level. So there was, learning about war dialing and scanning the internet, all those types of things, and starting to speak to like-minded people on bulletin board systems, and just get a bit more of an awareness of what was going in and how I could be involved in it, really. So the biggest thing I did was just absorb as much as I could. I was on bulletin board systems. I was going back to the library. Libraries were a big thing back then. So going in and
what is that? A library?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a few people may not know what they are.
www.library.com. That's the one. Yeah,
that's the one. Yeah,
I get it.
But going back and really going and checking out all of the books in the library that were to do with programming, that were to do with connected systems. I think I literally went to the point where all of the interest books that I wanted in the library had gone through, and they had to start ordering them in from other places, just because I was just absorbing it at such a pace. It was fascinating to me, really.
So how did you so when I've heard of very similar stories to yours, which is I find so fascinating to be so focused at an early age, and not really deviating from that, because look where you are now. How did you stay on the right side? Did you stray back and forth? And you don't have to incriminate yourself. There's no law of statute of limitations in the UK. But like, so how did you not stray, or did you toy the lines, but it helped you grow and develop and become and grow up and understand that there isn't really a valid career in being in the criminal industry?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think, given what I've told about how I got into it, and the fact that obviously it's come from the film that was to do with hacking, there was that element of it, and it was very easy to kind of go into that. A lot of the bulletin boards that I was part of were doing those types of things. And for me, it wasn't even that I was going to look at that and I can make some money from this through whatever means. It was more of a case of I was just super interested. That is a system there that I can't get into. What can I do to get past that? And the key thing to call out really that's different from now for the kind of the viewers that are looking at, well, what can I do now, is capture the flags and labs and VMs and all these fantastic things that we've got now didn't exist back in those days. It was very much, if you wanted to test something, it was production, right? It was the internet, it was live, and there really wasn't a way to be able to do that. So I had some friends that were interested in the same sorts of things as me, so we would like try and hack each other, we'd infect each other with Trojans and see what we could do, and a bit of a social engineering. Oh, check out this new video that you've just seen, and that's a bit of Trojan.
I love it.
Oh yeah, I've got you. So a little bit kind of,
I wish I knew you as a teenager, Steve. We would have had some fun, man, I'm telling you.
So yeah, there's that element to it, kind of just seeing what we could do. But then to a degree, as I say, I like that to kind of push things. So from there, it went to seeing how I could evolve that out on the internet. So without going into too much detail, some scanning took place and, looking around and seeing what was what. And at that point, we got a letter. My dad got a letter through the door from our ISP saying, "We've spotted you doing some scanning. Please cease and desist, otherwise we'll take it further." And I was like, so my dad brought this letter to me, and I was like, okay. He said, "I know you're not going to stop doing IT because I know what you like. You've made up your mind." He said, "You just need to find a different way to apply yourself because you're clearly good at what you're doing. Obviously not that good that I didn't get caught by an ISP." But to that end, he knew there was no point in saying to me, "Don't do this," because it would have just pushed me even more. He just said, "Find a good way to do this." And that was perfectly right, because there was no way I was going to not be involved in IT. And at that point, I just really needed to find a way that I could apply myself. So I started looking a little bit more at programming and doing protective side of things. I wrote some password protection programs, and shareware was a big deal back in the day. So I wrote those and put those on shareware bulletin boards. And when the internet came around, post those to shareware websites and forums, and kind of just getting into it from that perspective. So a little bit more on the blue team side of things, and knowing, okay, I want to do this. I want to do this for the rest of my life because I'm really interested in it. So how can I do it in such a way that I get to do all these cool things? I get to hack systems. I get to get access to all of these really cool applications and all that sort of thing, but do it in a legal way, and obviously do that as a living. So that's what put me back onto this path, and it's something that I'm massively passionate about myself, making sure that other people that could potentially hit that fork in the road take the right path, like I did, because it's very easy to go the opposite way. You'd always be looking over your shoulder, and it's not where you want to be, especially not when you can get such an exciting role to do all of that sort of thing, get paid for it, and get thanks from people for helping to better protect the company. So really good question. So
I think there's a lot of people who'd probably share the same sentiment that unfortunately 20 years ago, cybersecurity or information security, it was there, but it was always seen as, that's the IT guys. It was always bundled in as IT. It was never its own thing. So I think it didn't have as much focus. So all the focus was around, being on the dark side. So it's amazing to hear how you pulled it across and how you supported to pull it across. Because I don't think I had that support. I had a computer, but it was just leave him to do his own thing. And I remember getting one of those letters before as well, but it was for having like BitTorrent running or like a Tor server. That was back in the days when no one understood like what was going on in the internet, and the ISPs just sent cease and desist letters out randomly to anyone that was doing unsolicited activities. So you did. So from what I can gather, you did a lot of self-learning, and you really got into the books and got into the content. But so once you've done that self-learning, once you've got into the path, did you do anything structured or any official university courses or any formal education to get where you were?
Yeah, so I think back in the days, I say there wasn't really kind of the opportunities that there are now. There was no university courses where you could go and do information security or cyber or cryptography. There was none of that really. I took IT as a GCSE option, and that was really the only option, literally, that was available to me outside of self-learning, really, at that particular stage of my life. So I took that, and then I went on to college. I did GMVQ Advanced IT in college. And then I hit the point where I needed to decide whether or not I was going to go to university or not. And for me, I guess I just wanted to get into the industry. I wanted to be able to, start protecting things, start getting hands-on. I'd done so much learning myself that I kind of questioned how much I'd get benefit from university. At that stage, that's not to say that's not the case now. The courses have come on so far to the point where I'm actually thinking of doing them myself. But back in the day, my preference at that point was to just go into the industry. Now, going back to my earlier point when we started out, there was no way I could jump straight into cybersecurity. So I just dipped my toe into IT. So I went and I got a student loan to go and do an MCSE. So at that point, I'd started working in a call center, and in parallel, I started doing my MCSE. So I passed a couple of those, got MCPs, and then a role came up for the service desk within the call center that I was working for, and then I applied for that. I got that role, and that was my first IT proper IT role that kind of springboarded me onto everything else, and really. So it just kind of
you had quite a quick progression from there as well, right? I mean, I'm presuming that's because of your laser focus as to where you want to head and the kind of passions that you carry with you and stuff. So, kind of 12, 18 months in that environment, and then you start to, did you start to see or touch and feel what it was like in the more of the cybersecurity stuff, or is it just a case of you were hammering down the door yourself?
Yeah, very much the latter. So when I was in that role, I was looking around for a security team to go and pester and miter and can I sit on my lunch break with you and show me stuff, and it wasn't there, right? There wasn't a team dedicated to it. Cybersecurity, as we term it now, was just IT's job. Back to what you were saying, Ash. It was very much just lumped in. It's those guys and girls, just they need to secure the infrastructure. There's not a separate team. So from the help desk, I kind of moved up into more of an engineering role, so more hands-on doing and fixing and getting out there. And that was for a larger company, and they at that point then did have a dedicated cybersecurity team. It was 2 people, and so again, back in the day, that was probably adequate. There's probably too many people for back in the day because it just wasn't given the focus that it needed. But back to what I was saying, at that point, as soon as there was somebody there that was in the role that I saw myself in at some point, in the next couple of months, years, whatever it may be, they became my best friends, whether they liked it or not, right? So I was there, I was dropping them emails, I was spending some time with them, shadowing them. It's on my PDP, on my career plan within the company. And also I wanted to champion cybersecurity within MySpace. MySpace was Wintel, Windows, the Windows space. So I just started looking around in that area. What can we do? Doing checks myself in the NT domain, in Active Directory, and seeing how we could improve things and putting change requests forward to say, look, we need to do these types of things, and really just owning it and championing it. And I think that was then picked up by the cybersecurity teams and thought, we've got an ally here. Let's bring him on board. And that is something that I've done all the way through. Whatever role I've been in, given where I wanted to be, it was a case of always put myself out there and make a network and put myself around people that I wanted to be able to be like, really. And that's gone all the way throughout my career. And I know where you're going to go. I saw you going to say something. I know where you're going with this.
Go for it. Yeah.
I'm going to talk about networks and people. So one of the key things, takeaways from this is I think there's about six P's that I would say that people need to focus on when it comes to the career. So one of those is people. IT and cybersecurity. It's not tech, right? Tech's great. It's there. It's about the people, because if you look at information security, You know, even before there was computers, information security affected typewriters, right? Printed out things. That was before any technology came along. So for me, cybersecurity is all about people. Without people, we don't have a job, right? Because there's no threat actors. The threat actors are the people that we're sat here having a conversation about this whole industry, because there's bad people out there that want to do things, and we're on the other side and we protect it. So it's people from that aspect. But when it comes to people in terms of your network, I think it's super important to make sure that you put yourself around people that that help you to learn. Feel outside your comfort zone frequently. Do that frequently. If you're sat there and you're the smartest person in the room, I hear a lot of this on forums. You know, I go in there and I want to be the smartest person in the room when it comes to cyber. There are some elements where that fits, right? Because you're the SME in that room and you will need to be the smartest cyber person. If you're in a room of other cyber people, right, and you're the smartest person there, you need to be extending your network and not be the smartest person, because you always need to be learning. There's always something out there. And it was something that actually was a bit of an issue for me when I first started out. There was so much to take on and absorb. I was like, I can't actually deal with this. There's too much. I want to learn it all. Going back to your extreme that we were saying before, Cole, I just want to learn everything to do with cyber, right? And we know with maturity, 14 compared to 40, that was just not obtainable. But back to the point, surround yourself with people that will always be able to take you to a different level. All the way through my journey, that's what I've done. That's what I've done with Cole. When I worked with Cole, you know, the skills he's got with malware just kind of blow me away. I'm like, I need to get better in that particular area. And you were forced to grow. Well, I guess you're not forced, because it's something you want to do anyway. But you're given a very specific reason as to why you would want to kind of progress yourself. So, and also staying on the people side of things. Your network is invaluable when you're in cybersecurity from a cyber threat intelligence perspective, right? Because, you know, you hear things on the grapevine and, you know, this company got popped and, well, I know somebody that was working there, so I might be able to get some information that helps me in my role to protect my company, you know, that sort of thing. So people, you know, one of the key people in networking is one of the key things to a successful career, I would say.
I love that. That's a really good insight. Really good, Steve. I was also thinking about what you said before about the, you're kind of setting your goals, you're setting your sights on particular roles, skills, knowledge, people, etc. How often do you think you redefine that goal, or have you got it like planned out already? How does it work with you?
I think I'm quite fluid with that. So I think I've had that entry point focus, and once I've been in there, it's kind of like I've been a kid in the sweet shop. So I know that I want to go to the sweet shop, but I don't know what sweets I want. When I get in there, it's like, wow, there's so much choice. So my career is spanned various different things. So I've done pen testing, I've done forensics, and then, you know, when I landed in Bank of America, I was in there as the incident response manager. And just on the first call I had within the company on the first day, I became interested in cyber threat intelligence. I was just like, wow, this is amazing. So I then kind of signposted for a little bit further down the line that's what I wanted to move into and explore next time. So I think it's always about recognizing what you need to do now, but always have a longer term view of what you want to do, you know, whether that's 6 months, 12, 18 months down the line. Always have that plan.
Have you ever come across kind of barriers then where, you know, you've planted those signposts and you've worked towards it, and you think that sounds sexy, that I want to get involved in this bit, and, you know, maybe your focus shifts a little while later, etc. Has it always been easy to do that, or, you know, what are the kind of barriers then people might face?
No, I don't think it's been easy, and I've faced barriers. But I think the key thing is when you're passionate about something and you're determined, those barriers actually just sounds corny, but you can use them to actually enhance. So if I need to get into cyber threat intelligence and there's certain frameworks I need to understand, or certain certifications or certain experience, I don't see that as a reason to stop me getting it. I just see that as a list of things that I now need to do on that journey to that role that I'm going to get. So it's very much about, if you want it, get a plan together on how you need to achieve something to get in that role, and then just go. If it's of interest to you, you'll find that time, right? You know, you'll find it. it's very much a case of I don't kind of go to work. I go and do things. I get paid for doing things that I would do, you know, if I won the lottery, for example. So yeah, just very much have a focus. There will be barriers, you know, but that's just set there to test you. If that's certifications, I guess the main thing is around the certification element. A bit of a bugbear for me, really, in the industry at the moment, because in order to progress to some roles, depending on who's hiring you, they may be looking for certificates and for X years of experience. So that's probably one of the biggest kind of challenges that you can come across. I think I've been quite lucky in that I've always been realistic in that I know where I want to get to, and I make sure I give myself enough time to be able to get that experience, whether that's self-taught or get on the right courses. I've been very good in terms of the people I've worked for. I've always sponsored me onto courses and helped me to develop internally as well. And I think as cybersecurity leaders, there's a big opportunity for us to one, make sure we're putting people's career paths together, set them up for success. Don't say, I want to keep this person in my company for 10, 20, 30 years. Set them up for success on their journey, whether that's with you or not, right? Build them up. And then those barriers start becoming less and less. And also from an interview perspective, as people that hire people into the security industry, you know, passion, not paper. Right, that's just one of the big things. It's I will take that. I will take passion over paper every single day. That's not to say that certifications don't have their place. You know, I've got a number of certifications for various different reasons, but for me, it's about that passion. It's about making sure that the person that's going to be working for you really loves what they're doing.
What do you say to someone who's been in their job, you know, 4 or 5 years and are looking to make that next move? Well, you know, it's almost two part. My question is there an optimal time period between roles? And if there isn't, you know, what makes you move on or seek the next role, or even if it's the same company, seek the next challenge? Because, you know, there's some people that get very comfortable with what they're doing, but then on the side will do their passion projects, but then don't bring it into work. So like, how do you, from a, you know, your personal perspective, how do you seek that next role? When do you feel comfortable enough to say, I'm ready for the next jump? Is it time? Is it experience? Is it something else?
I think for me, it's kind of just been something that I've been able to feel. You know, I can't really put something around it, but I think, you know, I certainly would definitely say that for me, at least, time is, you know, I don't need to be here for X months. There are some exceptions to that, just because you know that in a certain role, for example, you're not going to be able to be in there for 6 months or 12 months and get the full benefit out of it. So for me, it's really about, you know, as much as I want to bring something to the role, it's what that role can do for me and my career progression. So I know going into a role, right, I'm going to be here for roughly X years, months, whatever it is, contract role, that sort of thing. And there's probably some time some time that's going to be put aside for that. But if I start to, you know, propel myself forward because I'm around the right people, and that comes further forward, time's not an issue for me if that's just the right time for me to go on to the next thing. And conversely, you know, if I think I'm going to be there for a year, 2 years, and I end up staying there for 3 years because I'm just getting so much benefit from it, then, you know, it's not around that. It's really around how happy you are at that moment in time with your career plan. You know, there's no magic calculation for it, really. I guess it just, for me, it goes back to making sure that when you're taking a role on, it's not just about, you know, what does a job spec look like. One of the main questions I expect people to ask me is, you know, what can you do for me as a company? You know, frame that in the professional way while you're in the interview. But, you know, this is what I'm going to bring to you, and I expect you to be able to say, this is what you've got for me, career development plan. One of the big things I was told when I went into one of my roles is that we fully expect that in kind of 12 to 18 months, we expect you to move on. You know, and we expect to move on because of the pressure in this role, you know, that sort of thing. We expect to move on, and we know that, so we'll plan for it. So, you know, when that is very it's very important as cybersecurity leaders that we are open and upfront with people, and not just that we open and upfront with them, but we create a path for our teams to keep them always busy with the right things, and always learning as well. Side projects, make sure, give your team time to do side projects. Massive thing.
I'm pretty sure
wow.
No. It's all just brilliant stuff, Steve. I'm pretty sure that I can guess the role that you're talking, or at least one of the roles that you're talking about, that says after 18 months you're going to be done with this because it's too much and it's right on the edge all the time. But you did it for like 4 years or so because you live and breathe it. Right, and the passion that I'll go so far as to say, like on camera to the rest of the world here, that I really miss working with you, Steve.
Likewise, mate.
Solely for the fact that when you talked about people around you who kind of lift you, a rising tide floats all boats, right? The people around you are going to be lifted by your skills, your knowledge, and your passion and stuff. And I really enjoyed working with you for those elements and more. But how do you maintain that passion without burning out at the end of it? What do you do to counteract that in the industry?
It's a really good question, especially as you say, somebody like
aside from beating the shit out of people, which is what you what you also said.
I just realised we've got a couple of open loops we've not finished off on this. So we talked about 6 Ps before. I think I've only
you did one of them.
Yeah. So I'll try and cover that off. So somebody signpost me to that in a minute when I go off on a tangent. But back to the question. I think one of the Ps, the reason why that's sparked for me is perseverance. Right, so we've talked about some of the challenges that you may have, whether that's around certification or lack of time in the industry. I think perseverance is one of the main things that you need to do, but you need to also be quite self-controlled to know that when perseverance and passion actually can be quite self-inflicting. So you need to know when enough's enough and to step back, because if you are like me and you wake up and you're on Twitter and you're checking what's gone on overnight and this sort of thing, and it becomes so kind of 24/7, because depending on what role you're in, it is 24/7 in some instances. You're on call, right? So it's hard to switch off, but you really do need to have something outside of your career and even your passion, because as I say, I do this outside of a job, something else that's totally not cyber, that's not IT related, not even tech related, if you can help it, right? Have something totally different, just to keep you in those guidelines. For me, as you've alluded to, it's kickboxing, it's Thai boxing. Great way to vent frustration. You had a stressful week and that sort of thing. Perfect. Some people run, some people are fish as well. Do something that's not work. And also, balance at time with your family is massive. You don't want to burn out. Okay, no matter how passionate and how much you love this, there's always something else there that's going to need your attention. So just be very mindful of that.
That's amazing. That's a really good answer. So what are the other P's then? Because I'm intrigued now.
Okay, so for me, so what we talked on so far, I'll talk about passion, perseverance. Yep. Also, so passion, people, perseverance, positivity kind of leads into what you've just been talking about. There are going to be times when you no matter how much you love your job, no matter how great the company is that you work for, no matter how great the project is that you've been put on at that point in time, you're going to finish the day and go, wow, that was a hard day, right? That was a hectic day. So you need to find the positivity out of it. And I think for me, I've actually got, let's see, I've got that, which basically says, make your passion your paycheck.
I love it.
The reason I have that is for those days, right? For that positivity, because when I finish doing whatever it is they're doing, and maybe I'm thinking just so much going on at the moment, I look at that and go, you know what? I could be in a job that I don't like.
Yeah.
And I'm in one that I'm really passionate about. So even though today is a really difficult day, there's been some really big challenges, and I need to get through those, and I will do that. But at the moment, just be thankful for the fact that you're doing something that you really love. So back to the other P being positivity. The other one, puzzles, right? You've got to love puzzles. I know Carl loves a good puzzle, you know, so it's all about the puzzles, because for me, you know, no matter what area of cybersecurity you work in, it's all about working ultimately with starting off with very little information. In most places, in most cases, no matter what your role is, starting off with very little information and building that up. Trying different things, you know, you've got a puzzle there and you're not going to get it right first time round, so don't be afraid to fail, you know, although do it in a controlled way. Fail forward, as they say. Yeah, so you're not going to get things right all the time. You are going to make mistakes, but learn from them, and that helps build up your experience. And don't be afraid to call it, depending on what it is, don't be afraid to call that out when you're speaking to people in the industry, or even, you know, jobs, because what I want to see is that you want to try different things, and that you know that you're not going to be perfect at those. But what I want to see is, right, well, how did you fix that, and how are you a better person for that particular thing? So fail forward and do it in a controlled way. Don't go and take it down a network and learn from it, right? Try not to do that, but, you know, don't be afraid to fail. So that's a key one there. And then practice, right? The last one is practice, because you're only as good in this industry as what you're doing in it. So if you're a pen tester, you need to be pen testing all the time. You need to be keeping up with the tools. If you're a malware analyst, you need to be analyzing all the time. Practice, it goes back to what I was saying before. You're gonna fail. You're gonna get this stuff wrong, right? You're gonna brick your VM with ransomware when you didn't mean to. I've done it plenty of times, right? But it's about doing it in a controlled environment. Don't play with ransomware on your corporate network, right? You won't be thanked for that. You might learn from it, but, you know, practice in a controlled environment, because, as it going back to what I was saying before, you can never. There's so much to learn in this industry that you can't stand still, because if you stand still, everything is still carrying on moving forward without you. So try and keep pace as much as you can without burning out.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
I've made a note of all of those. So it's really, yeah. I love it. What so if you were to look at some kind of top tips and advice for people, let's put them in two buckets, right? So people who are looking on the outside of information security and they're looking for that first break in. They see that, you know, they've watched the war games, they've watched you know, all the, you know, Elliot Alderson and all the rest of it, and they think to themselves, right, okay, this is the career for me. I like the appeal of cybersecurity. What kind of tips would you give someone who's looking to break in as to where they should go, how they should approach it?
I think for me, the person that we're talking about is already going to be doing what they need to be doing, right? Because they're not going to be able to help themselves. You know, they're going to be sat watching this for a start, right? So that person might be on the first step of the ladder, or might even just be considering taking a step onto the ladder. You've done it already. If the first thing you've done is watch this, then you're doing the right thing. And what I mean by that is look, there's so many resources out there on the internet that I've kind of already alluded to. Just absorb as much as you can, because at this stage, don't pigeonhole yourself. There's a whole plethora of different opportunities for you out there, whether that's red teaming, pen testing, incident response, whether it's a BSO. So you know, you might not want to dig into the weeds of the technical side of things, but you're really good at people skills and management and project management, but you want to do that techie cyber bit. There's a role there for you as well. Okay, if you're really good with, you know, graphic design and that sort of thing, there's elements of things that you can do for awareness. So whatever it is that you're good at, there's going to be probably a cybersecurity side of it as well. So have a look around. Don't pigeonhole yourself first. Get a feel for what's out there in the industry, and then see which elements you kind of gravitate towards, and then just build on that from there. Follow people on Twitter that are talking about the types of things that you're interested in. Google is your friend massively. Jump on Google. Just look at the types of topics that you're interested in, and you know, there will be things there. Loads of free courses that you're able to get onto, various different vendors that are free now that were never there before. So just test the water. You know, don't pigeonhole yourself. Just see what's out there and see what floats your boat.
I mean, yeah. I feel inspired just listening to you, Steve. Like, it's just like so captivating. You store, you know, the ideas and the motivation that you push across, and the passion is amazing. Do you know, you're a passionate person, and I would employ everyone to like follow you on, you know, social media and LinkedIn and look at the stuff that you're posting. And I can see, you know, you're on the EC Council, so you're definitely really into giving back and into the community. But do you follow anyone else, or is there any books or other podcasts that you can recommend to other people to supplement their knowledge?
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bookshelf behind
Yeah,
you
that's
there.
what I thought.
Yeah, so I won't reel all those off. But you know, there's lots of good books out there. I don't know if there's some way we can maybe afterwards we can we'll have some sort
put
of
some stuff in the show notes,
put some stuff in the notes. Yeah, plenty of stuff there to keep you going forever and a day, for sure. But definitely, yeah, absorb podcasts, take the books in. Loads of training resources we can put there for you as well. By all means, follow me. Make sure you're following Colin Ash as well on there. Just, you know, follow people, take things in. And Twitter's a rabbit hole, right? Going back to make sure you pull yourself back in. It's great because you follow somebody and then they tweet somebody else and you follow them. It's wow, I just found a whole new topic that this person's an expert in, and now I've got loads more things to follow up on. So, but just
do you know what I find about
Twitter
Twitter as well is that like you can speak to people. Like it's not all about the following, is it? Like the amount of people that I've kind of just put this person in like a celebrity status in the world of, and I thought, well, who would they ever? They would never speak to. I'd actually tweet them and they'll message you straight back, and it's like you have a chit chat, and all of a sudden you're best buddies. So
you know what? No, that's a massively valid point and really good point. And it occurred to me the other day, I did exactly that, right? So there was this person I was following on Twitter. I was like, you know, tweeting amazing tweets, full of content. You know, I'm just like, stop tweeting, because every time you tweet, it's another an hour or two out of my day that I need to find some stuff to go and look at what you're doing. And I was like, how did you like manage to get to that stage, right? And I stepped back from it and I went, you know what? At one point in their life, they sent their first tweet. Literally one tweet. That's how it started. And so why can that not be you? That could be you if it is. So by all means, respect them as somebody is well respected in the industry, but never put them on the pedestal to say, I can't achieve that. That's without my grasp. And conversely, I think we've talked about this before. Don't underestimate when you are in a role or when you're speaking to people as part of building your network. Don't underestimate your value that you're having in that conversation. You may be speaking to somebody who's a CISO, right? You may be speaking to somebody who's a head of or leads a penetration test in red team, and you're 9 times out of 10, they will be taking things from you and what you're saying as part of that conversation. They will be taking it on and using that to make themselves better. So you add in value all the time. So key takeaway from that is, don't put other people on a pedestal. Respect them for how good they are in the industry, but that can be you if you want it to be.
Brilliant. That's great tip. I think that's a perfect place to end with the insights there. I think I could honestly carry on talking to you all day around your journey. There's actually so much stuff that I know.
I think we're going to have to do another recording.
Yeah, I think honestly, so as well.
Yeah, it's just, you know, maybe we do an update. You know, I think a Ste update. It's just.
A part 2. I think, you know, there's a lot of stuff about your education background, your work with, you know, the community, giving back into, you know, kind of kids coding, all that kind of stuff that I know you're super passionate about as well. I think you're right, Ash. I think we'll definitely further explore it. We do want to play a little game with you though, Steve, before we let you go. Ashley, do you want to do it, or do you want?
We'll do it. I like to change them up now and again, and I think this one I'm going to change them up. So tell me when you're ready, Steve.
I don't want you to be ready, so let's just.
I don't want you to think about this either. I know you're a methodical person. No thinking.
So this is a list of words. Is it that you got to come up with the first word that comes to your head, right?
Okay.
Right. AI.
Overrated.
Blockchain.
Confusing.
APT.
Oops.
Data breach.
Oops.
Privacy.
Interesting.
Patching.
Do it.
Virus.
Part of it's not one word, is it? But just one thing to consider out of the whole malware spectrum.
Password.
Get rid of them. Use something else.
Phishing.
Education.
Progression.
important and possible.
Mentor.
Be one.
And then passion.
Have it and harness it and pass it on to other people. Infect people with it. It's what you're there to do for. If you're passionate about something, pass it on.
Nice. I think you should be a university lecturer, Steve. Honestly.
I think I'm clever enough for that, mate, to be fair, but you know.
I think it's a really inspiring journey, really inspiring story, and you've got so many amazing insights, Steve. Thank you for coming on today. And
thank you for having me, guys. Really appreciate it.
Great.